You know that HVAC system in your house? It's kind of a quiet hero, right? Keeping you comfy all year round. But what you might not realize is that it's locked in this constant, hidden battle with an invisible enemy, your local climate. So let's dig into what's really happening behind the scenes.
Sounds a little dramatic, doesn't it? Attacking your home? But seriously, think about it. Your HVAC is built to fight the elements. Sure, but some climates push it to its absolute breaking point, day in and day out. So the real question is, how do you know if your home is sitting on one of these climate battlegrounds?
All right, to really get a grip on this invisible battle, we're going to look at a perfect case study, a place called Littleton, Colorado. The climate there creates this perfect storm of stress that just hammers HVAC equipment. And trust me, what happens there can teach us a whole lot about what our own systems might be going through.
So the first big player in this fight? It's the altitude. We're talking over a mile high. And that thin air, it's not just a cool fact for hikers. It is a massive stressor for your home's machinery. And that thin air has a pretty wild consequence. There's about 17% less oxygen up there. Now, why does that matter? Well, for a gas furnace, which literally needs oxygen to burn fuel and create heat, that is a huge, huge problem. It means the furnace has to work so much harder just to warm your house, putting this constant strain on the whole system.
Okay, next up, insane temperature swings. In places like Colorado's Front Range, it's totally normal for the temperature to swing, get this, 70 degrees in a single day. Can you imagine? Your system might be blasting the AC in the afternoon and then have to kick on the heat just a few hours later. That constant on-off cycling, man, it just accelerates wear and tear like nothing else.
So let's recap. You've got thin air making your furnace gasp for breath. You've got these massive temperature swings forcing your system to run a marathon every single day. And then you add in high winds that are constantly blasting dust and junk into your outdoor unit. It's this relentless three-pronged attack that just punishes even the toughest, most well-built equipment. Now, a system under that much pressure, it's not going to suffer in silence forever. Nope. Eventually, it starts sending out distress signals, cries for help. The real trick is knowing how to read those signs, because you really can't afford to ignore them. In the winter, these cries for help can get pretty serious. You see, modern high-efficiency furnaces, they're so good at pulling heat from the exhaust that they actually create water, condensation. But what happens in a sub-zero cold snap? That little drain line can freeze solid. And believe it or not, this one little problem is responsible for up to 30% of all furnace shutdowns during extreme cold.
Then summer rolls around and the problems just change shape, but they're every bit as serious. Remember those high winds we talked about? Well, they coat your AC's outdoor coils in a layer of dust and gunk. That alone can slash its cooling power by a whopping 30%. And then, because of the altitude, if the refrigerant level isn't set perfectly for that thinner air, you can lose another 20% of your cooling efficiency right there. It's a double whammy.
So what does that actually feel like inside your house? Well, it feels like your AC is blowing warm air when it should be cold. Or you might even see ice building up on the indoor coils. And you will definitely see it in your energy bills, which will just be soaring. And it's all because your system is losing that battle against the climate.
Here's the key takeaway, though. That weak airflow from your vents or a furnace that's suddenly blowing cold air, that's not just some minor glitch. It is a direct symptom of this much bigger war going on. It's your system's desperate cry for help before something really, really bad happens.
Okay, so when those cries for help get too loud to ignore, you're faced with a really tough and, let's be honest, often expensive decision. Do you repair the system again, or is it finally time to replace the whole thing? Luckily, there's a simple rule of thumb that can make this decision a lot easier. It's called the $5,000 rule, and it's basically a simple financial shortcut. Here's how it works. You multiply the cost of the repair by the age of your unit in years. If that number comes out to more than $5,000, replacement is probably the smarter financial move. You're just getting to that point where you're throwing good money after bad.
Let's break that down step by step. First, you got to get a firm repair estimate from a professional. Second, you need to know exactly how old your system is. Third, you just do the simple math. Repair cost times system age. If that final number is over $5,000, well, you've got your answer. It's a great way to avoid getting stuck in a cycle of endless repairs. All right, let's look at how this plays out with some real numbers. Scenario 1, you've got a $400 repair on a system that's 10 years old. 400 times 10 is 4,000. That's under the $5,000 mark, so a repair makes a lot of sense. But what if it's a $600 repair on a 12-year-old unit? Well, 600 times 12 is $7,200. Now you're way over that threshold. You're much better off putting that repair money towards a new, more reliable system.
So, you've used the rule, you've made the call. Now what? Whether you're going for a complex repair or a full replacement, the next big challenge is finding a pro who actually understands the unique fight your system is up against.
Here is your checklist. This is what you should ask any contractor. Do they have specific experience with high-altitude environments? Do they use diagnostic tools to figure out the problem, or are they just guessing? And this one is huge. Do they show you visual proof of what's wrong? Of course, you also want upfront pricing and a really solid warranty. These are absolutely non-negotiable.
You know, the gold standard for transparency really sounds like this. A true pro won't just tell you something critical is broken, like a cracked heat exchanger. They will pull out a special camera, a borescope, and they will physically show you the crack. That's how you know you can trust them.
All right, last thing. Let's demystify the service call itself. Just knowing what a smooth, professional process is supposed to look like can take away a ton of the stress and anxiety when you have to pick up the phone and call for help.
A really great service experience should always follow these 3 simple steps. 1. You call and talk to a real person who asks smart questions to understand your issue. 2. The technician comes out, diagnoses the problem, shows you the evidence, and gives you a written price for your approval before they start any work. And 3. After the repair is done, they test everything to make sure the problem is actually solved.
At the end of the day, the whole process really needs to be built around one simple idea. 0 surprises on your final bill. The invoice you get should match the estimate you approved. No hidden fees, no last-minute charges. Just honest, transparent work. That's it. So as the seasons start to turn and that next wave of brutal heat or bitter cold is on the horizon, the real question to ask yourself is this. After everything it's been through, is your home's HVAC system really ready for its next battle?